I think, guys, my engine is toast. Alright, as some of you may or may not know, we picked up a engine for our turbo R18 8th Gen Civic. Now this is a stock OEM R18 A1 motor that we picked up on your famous site, Facebook Marketplace. And according to the seller, this engine was a fairly low mileage motor that was pulled and was sitting in his garage for many years. Now I'm not sure exactly why it was pulled, what the details were, because somebody was selling it from their son, and either way we got a hold of it. It was local to me and I was able to pick it up for a fairly good price. Now diving into the engine, as you can refer back to all the playlists, the engine looks mint. When you open up the valve cover, even the metal, the aluminum, looks super clean with barely any varnish on the metal. The oil looks clean, the rollers look clean. There's nothing wrong based on how clean this engine is that I'm assuming right now. And during this series we were doing a variety of tests on the motor to just kind of make sure it's in good health. And from what we can see, again, on the timing chains, on the guides, on the casting, everything looks pretty clean, and in fact a low mileage engine. So diving into the engine with a boroscope, we were analyzing the engine, checking if anything seized. The cylinder walls were fairly clean, not a lot of deposits or rust or anything. But even though we did boroscope it, I still didn't really want to turn this motor over until, you know, we give it some lubricity. And as you can see in the following clips, we were tackling that issue with a special concoction, which is your Marvel Mystery Oil, transmission fluid, and whatnot. There is a little bit of rust you could see here on the cylinder walls, and that's what the fluid is gonna do. It's gonna lubricate, clean, and as we move that motor around, hopefully it can scrape off the excess rust deposits here. It's very minor. Whatever you see on top dead center is quite normal to have deposits right above top dead center, but overall the cylinder walls are pretty good, and the Marvel Mystery Oil should help. Everyone that's an OG knows Marvel Mystery Oil. We got some automatic transmission fluid mixed in here and some 020 full synthetic. I went with the thin oil just because this engine's going to be sitting here. It's not going to be warming up, so I'm hoping that the thinner oil will be able to seep through the pistons into the sump easier. And you might be asking yourself, why the automatic transmission fluid? Well, because automatic transmission fluid is an excellent cleaner, so we're trying to lube up, clean up a little bit with this mixture. So I got a syringe here. We're going to be throwing a good size to each cylinder. We put the oil, transmission fluid, and the Marvel Mystery Oil in the cylinders. It's just to lubricate it and coat it and try to get rid of some of the deposits that have been caked on the piston and on the cylinders. And I'm hoping, I'm going to be turning the motor every couple of days. I'm just going to be cranking it over a few times so that oil and the lubrication and the cleaning take effect over the course of a week or two, and hopefully that gives us just positive results. So we filled all that up with oil, and now you can actually see some of the exhaust valves and the intake valves soaking as well, which is good because again, it'll help with the lubrication and maybe the sealing of the valves at this point in time. So this time around, after we've soaked the cylinders with oil, transmission fluid, and Marvel Mystery Oil for about a week or so, and we cranked the motor continuously over every couple of days just to lubricate those cylinders, wear those pistons in, give it some life and lubricity, as well as soak some of the valves. You know, we overfilled the cylinders actually, so some of that oil got on the valves as well, both the intake and exhaust. And after confirming with a boroscope that all the oil fell down through the piston rings into the cylinders, I wanted to create another test. So valve train looks pretty good. The cylinders look pretty good. Now we're doing another leak down test after the engine's been coated with all this oil and transmission fluid, and as you can see, the results are much better from the leak down test. Just giving it a little bit of life lubricity, since it hasn't been really running, it actually improved quite a bit the leak down test results, which are pretty much normal at this point. And again, this is with the engine after sitting for so many years, dead cold engine. So I'm pretty happy with those results. So altogether now, from all the tests I've done, I can conclude this engine is a pretty good engine. But there is one problem, and someone brought this to light. They said, hey, you know, this is obviously an R18, and these R18s were notorious for having a cracked block issue. And someone highly suggested I test the cooling system for any leaks. So here we go. Here are the next steps to this journey. All right, we got the R18 right over here. Had to roll it up all the way here because we are going to be smoke testing right now. We are going to be smoke testing the water cooling system, making sure this engine is not one of the bad ones with a cracked block. So we covered up all the ports on the water side, as you can see, and right in this port we have the smoke machine going into it. We're using power from 12-volt battery. I really like this Ansel smoke tester, but I really wish there was an adapter where you can just plug it in directly to 120 volt instead of a 12 volt. That way I can just connect it to the power right here. But all in all, it's a little windy today, so hopefully I don't miss anything. But we'll smoke it up and observe for any leaks. I think my engine is toast. Alright, so right now I took the smoke machine, plugged it into one of the crankcase position sensor, and this is actually pretty interesting because you can kind of see where the oil drain passages are. So you got a couple, you know, obviously air from the crankcase is going to go out through the dipstick. There's a couple holes in the block where you can see that it's coming out of right now and making its way even out here by the timing chain. So that's pretty neat. Alright, we got that set up. The smoke machine alone doesn't do much without pressure, so now we are pressurizing the system with about 30 pounds.
No! God, please, no! No! No!
Alright, looks like the crack starts here and ends here along this line. So right here behind the block is also a common area where things crack, right on this side and actually behind this vent cover. So there is some staining right here, a little discoloration. So let's remove it and air pressure check it. All right, so far I'm thinking this looks just like oil. Doesn't look like coolant. here. So far looking pretty good from here. Not seeing anything. And I'd like to take this unfortunate time to thank the sponsor of today's video, Super Clean. Super Clean pretty much cleans the toughest grease jobs, and I've been using it in the garage ever since they came on board for these nasty projects that we deal with a lot of oil, with a lot of sludge, with a lot of grease. Super Clean does a fantastic job cleaning the harshest or the most delicate surfaces. So if you guys are looking for any kind of grease jobs that you want to tidy up, look no further than Super Clean. We have some water. Let her eat. Alright, that took that quite well. I'm gonna fill it up with water so that way when we pressure test this, we get a better idea where the leak may be or if there's any more leaks. Because if we can get the water level up to the top of that deck, you know, and give it air pressure, it's gonna leak. You can't really spot it with an eye if it was a crack, but if there's water seeping through it, that's what we're looking for. Alright, I put enough water in there where it's actually pouring out both from here and actually out from here. So it is full. The moment of truth. The water should be all the way up here then. All right, looking at the intake manifold side, there definitely was a few cracks here that kind of scared me. But after doing the pressure test, there is no leaking, at least on the intake side, and we cleaned it up real nice and smooth, real nice and clean. Like, look at that. It's like factory. All right, so evidently we filled up everything with coolant or water and coolant, and we did the pressure test, pretty good pressure test, and there is no leaks on the intake side of this motor, so I'm happy about that. I'm going to turn it around right now, and again we're going to take a look at the front of the motor now that I got everything pressurized a little bit better. So to be honest, even though you guys can't see my emotions on the video footage, I'm quite devastated from this encounter and figuring out that this motor we picked up, which currently now it's probably about 8 months ago. Well, it turns out this motor has a crack block issue. So this motor probably was a 06, 07, maybe 08, early 08 engine. And you know, they were notorious for having cracked blocks, which is a cracked casting, right? It could be in front of the block, it can be in the back of the block. Unfortunately, ours is in the front of the block, but fortunately it's only the one part of the engine that's cracked. So I'm not sure if people are able to salvage a block like this. And again, I really would love to keep this motor because again how clean it is, and I'm assuming it's low mileage. And now looking at the story, I'm assuming this motor was taken out of that vehicle when it was probably fairly new, 20-30,000 miles, and they swapped in another motor. And the reason again they took this one out is because they were having leaking block issues, coolant leaking issues. And that's probably why it was just sitting since it was removed with low mileage in the garage. I'm sad to see it, but Let me know in the comments below if we can save this.
I ain't here for the money, I ain't here for the fame. Though it might be nice to own a jet plane, I'ma do it all for you. Come along and see it's true.